let's move to the blue side of the debate. Tobias Ellwood, the Tory MP for Bournemouth East, joins me now. A fierce critic of Boris Johnson. He had the whip removed by the former Prime Minister in July. Now, Tobias, you must be popping the champagne corks open. You're delighted at Boris Johnson's demise, no doubt.
Not at all. Not at all. This is a grave moment for our party, and it's very, very sad indeed that this is happening. Johnson has typically departed in his own style, kicking and screaming, with so much drama, inflicting damage as he goes. He claims he emulates Churchill, but never did Churchill, as Prime Minister, act so selflessly, blatantly abandoning colleagues on the political battlefield. When the going gets tough, Churchill would stay the course and inspire. Johnson quits, not only kicking the milk bottles on his way out, but rallying other MPs to follow in order to inflict maximum damage to the very party that he claims to support. So Johnson certainly is no Churchill, and his actions are akin to mutiny. There are MPs, councillors, candidates, activists up and down the country, many who had such adulation for him, who will be so disappointed by this selfish and destructive conduct that we are now seeing as we are left to pick up the pieces. And you and I have had this discussions of what conservatism is about. Yeah. Smaller government, lower taxes, supporting the enterprise, free enterprise. But it's also encouraging a sense of duty and responsibility of the individual and putting Britain's nation's interests first. Johnson has lost sight of that. And if I can just say, this would be an opportunity for the Prime Minister. This is where astute leaders turn crises into opportunities to deal with this factional fighting, this ill discipline. Johnson's mutinous, disloyal behaviour should actually see him lose the right to stand as a Conservative MP, and any other MP triggering a by-election also should be invited to leave the party. And I would go further to say the Prime Minister should now have a radical reshuffle, inviting more competent, disciplined Conservatives into the cabinet who are committed to his agenda. Because the nation will then finally see
who would you like him to get rid of?
Leadership has returned to the party. That's what we now need to see.
Who should he get rid of, Tobias? Suella Braverman?
I'm not going into that debate right now. I'm focusing what needs to actually happen.
But you've just sparked a debate because you've called for a reshuffle.
That's for the Prime Minister to judge and choose this moment to draw an end to the Boris Johnson era. The moment when the Prime Minister asserts his authority to flush out doubters, look detractors in the eye to say, are you with us or against us? Do you want to win the next general election, or do you want us to see an opposition? This is the moment that we can regroup, refresh, consolidate with mission focus to win the next general election.
I'm confused,
and not be distracted by Boris Johnson that wants to drag our party into the mire.
OK, I'm confused, though, because you've talked about wanting smaller government, lower taxes and this spirit of entrepreneurialism. And yet, actually, you're supporting a Prime Minister and a Chancellor that want higher taxes, a bigger government and are fostering an environment where, frankly, most people wouldn't want to start a business in 2023.
Yeah, and you're glossing over the major issues that have actually confronted us in the last decade. We came in inheriting massive debt after the crisis in 2008. We then had Brexit, which has distracted and disturbed our economy in a major way. We then had, of course, the war in Ukraine and, of course, COVID. These are things that any government would have to deal with and have caused concerns about our economic fiscal stability. Yes, we want smaller government. Yes, we want lower taxes. But people even forget, as we try to emulate Margaret Thatcher, she raised taxes when she had to as well.
Is it not problematic for the Tory party at this stage to see quite devastating polling again this weekend in the Mail on Sunday, talking about Keir Starmer's superior popularity and approval rating to that of Rishi Sunak?
I'm not going to be distracted by that. The reason why our party is in such a mess at the moment is because of the ill discipline we've had in the last couple of years. Not just Boris Johnson, but Liz Truss as well. We finally started to get our act in order. We finally started to rekindle a sense of statecraft in number 10. And now Boris, because he doesn't get his way, throws his teddies in the corner and, as I say, not just walks out the front door, but encourages other MPs to trigger by-elections as well. I stress there was much love for Boris Johnson and what he did in 2019. But he is not bigger than the party, our historically, most successful party in the world. And we should now recognise what Boris Johnson is trying to do and scupper our chances at the next general election.
Finally, Tobias, what should happen to the Privileges Committee report and what should happen to Boris Johnson's parliamentary pass?
Well, it's not for me to judge what happens to the past. The report is very, very important for us to understand. The conduct of MPs is important for the world, Britain, the voters, to see how we manage our conduct activities. So many questions were asked about Boris Johnson's behaviour. A report was written and commissioned by a committee that the Prime Minister signed up to. It's important that we see the outcomes of that, and those are shared properly.
Tobias Ellwood, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning.